So why should you care about who makes your wine? It's definitely a question that gets asked by me a lot, and it's a very common experience that people that come into our shop, when they start looking around, they're like, I don't know any of these wines, I'm not familiar with them. And so I wanted to talk a bit today about why we focus on small producers, and why you should care about where your wine comes from. I think early on in my own experience with wine, as I became more and more of an enthusiast, I was realizing personally that my favorite wines that I like to drink were from small producers, and I really wasn't sure why. And so it took me quite a while, even after opening Stanley's, to really dive into it and have a lot more conversations with winemakers and to really understand, why are these wines better? Why are they more compelling? And so what I really think it comes down to is that when, wine is, first of all, a very natural product. And so I think a good analogy to draw is that it's kind of like if you're into going to farmers markets and finding good fresh vegetables and fruits and other produce, there's just something better about the taste and the flavor of those products from the farmers market than if you just go to your average grocery store and are buying them at the grocery store. And so it's really the same thing with wine. Wine is a very natural product. It's just grapes, as long as it's good wine, and it hasn't been manipulated and adulterated. And so when you find wines that are made on small farms with really strong attention to detail from people that really care, that is going to come through in the wines. And that's really what I learned over time is that it's just true. It's just true that especially winemakers who are also the farmers and can really control the whole process from end to end. They really care about what's going on in the vineyard. They're paying attention throughout the whole growing season as to what's going on. They're very acutely aware of when the right time to harvest the grapes is. And then once you have really good farming practices, healthy soils, healthy vines, healthy grapes, the winemaking becomes a lot easier. And so once you start with that good core of great fruit, you really shouldn't need to do a whole lot, And so what you often find from great wines is that when you peer into the winemaking process, it can be very, very simple. I remember a conversation I had with René Moss. He's a very famous winemaker in the Loire Valley in France, and I was asking him, so tell me about the process of making the wines. And he had this very stern, he's a very stern man. He's very kind of large man, and he's just like, we pick grapes, we crush grapes, we put in barrel. I was like, okay, but then what? Tell me more about what. He's like, no, that's it. So I was just, I'm sure he's simplifying things a little bit to be charming or maybe I don't know. He's a little what do you say, intimidating of a figure. But anyway, the lesson was learned right there in that conversation that he cares about the fruit, and he cares about the farming, and he cares. And when you're dealing with and talking with some of the best winemakers in the world, the best really, really famous wines, but they are of this nature where they're doing all the farming and really caring about, like I say, the vineyards. The conversations invariably turn into conversations about farming. It's not about winemaking. And so it's conversations about terroir. It's conversations about weather, climate, how they're reacting to the different challenges that they're facing, or, what kind of treatments they're using. All these sorts of things come into play. But again, the important thing is that the care and the attention is in the farming, not so much in the winemaking. And that really is only possible with people that are doing small production wines. When I say small, these can range, from micro to, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 barrels of a particular wine, something like that. But I think once you get beyond that scale, it's a bit hard to keep track of farming on a very intimate level across, a large acreage and that sort of thing. It's possible if you have the right support, and there are some great wineries that are quite large, and so kudos to them. I think but the most important thing is to have the right ethos around it and the right attention to detail and the right intention. Yeah.